police the rival events, thought to be one of the biggest deployments in decades. Our home and legal correspondent Dominic Casciani has more.
The two events could see at least 80,000 people in rival camps converging on central London during what Scotland Yard describes as a period of heightened fears in both Jewish and Muslim communities. The Unite the Kingdom march, organised by anti-Islam activist Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, is likely to be the biggest event, and police are deploying live facial recognition cameras and drones to identify known far-right extremists. Armoured vehicles will be on standby for serious violence. Specialist teams will also be looking for evidence of anti-Semitic hate speech at the annual pro-Palestinian Nakba Day event. They say they can't ask the Home Secretary to ban either event because they have the resources to keep London safe, albeit at a cost of more than £4 million.
The family of a British couple jailed in Iran on espionage charges say they're gravely concerned for their safety. Lindsay and Craig Foreman have not been allowed to make calls from Evin prison in Tehran for more than a week after an interview they gave to the BBC. Our correspondent Caroline Hawley reports.
Lindsay and Craig Foreman have now spent more than 16 months in jail. In February, accused of spying, they were both given 10-year sentences. Their families say the couple spoke to the BBC because they feel abandoned and wanted their voices heard. But now the Foreman's phone access, their only way of contacting the outside world, has been cut off. The family say the couple had talked of going on hunger strike if they were prevented from making calls. But with no news from them in more than a week, friends and relatives have no idea what condition they're currently in. And their son Joe says he's terrified for them. The government says it will continue working to ensure their return safely to the UK.
President Trump's choice for the next chairman of the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, has been confirmed by the Senate. Kevin Walsh will succeed Jerome Powell, who was repeatedly criticized by Mr. Trump for not cutting interest rates fast enough. Analysts say the central bank isn't expected to announce a cut soon because the higher cost of fuel as a result of the war in Iran has increased inflation. The latest figures show producer prices rose by 1.4% last month, the biggest monthly increase in 4 years. Despite that, the US markets rose, with two of the main indices reaching record highs because of optimism about artificial intelligence and President Trump's visit to China. Prosecutors in Germany have charged a paediatrician with 130 counts of child sex abuse, including rape. They allege he committed the crimes over a period of 12 years, with many taking place while at work. It's unclear how many children were targeted. The unidentified suspect worked in clinics and a hospital in Brandenburg State near Berlin. Part of Brighton Beach remains cordoned off after the bodies of 3 women were recovered from the water. Sussex police say they don't yet know how the women came to be in the sea, and they've not been identified. Our correspondent Ellie Price reports from Brighton.
The 999 call was made at 5:45 this morning. A Coast Guard helicopter, 3 lifeboats, police cars and ambulances arrived on the scene. But despite this, the women's bodies were pulled from the sea near to Brighton Marina shortly afterwards. It's thought the women who died were aged between 20 and 30. Chief Superintendent Adam Hayes is from Sussex Police.
This is a tragic incident, and we are at the very early stages of our inquiries. Our priority right now is to identify all 3 women and contact their next of kin. I know this incident will be highly distressing for the community, and we are working hard with our partners to understand exactly what has happened.
Police haven't yet said why the women were in the water. The Coast Guard continued its search into the afternoon, but confirmed it wasn't looking for anyone else. The Brighton Pavilion MP, Sian Berry, described the deaths as unbearably sad.
WhatsApp users will soon be able to have disappearing private chats with the platform's artificial intelligence chatbot Meta AI as it rolls out a new incognito mode globally. There are concerns this would mean nobody, including WhatsApp or its parent company Meta, will be able to see if the chatbot gives bad advice. Our technology editor Zoe Kleinman reports.
WhatsApp boss Will Cathcart says people are having increasingly confidential conversations with AI about their health, their relationships and their finances, and they don't like the idea of the companies behind AI products being able to see these. Most AI firms store and make use of this data. WhatsApp says incognito mode will be optional and the chatbot will only deal with questions and answers by text. There have been previous reports of other chatbots encouraging suicide and explaining how to make bombs, but WhatsApp says Meta AI will err on the side of caution by refusing to answer anything that could be interpreted as harmful or illegal. The conversations will not be stored anywhere, including on the user's device. WhatsApp has already blocked rival chatbots from being accessible via its platform, so users can only access its own product, Meta AI. Its stance is in contrast with Instagram, also owned by Meta, which has recently disabled encrypted private messages, saying this was in the interests of online safety.
Now football and the title race in the Scottish Premiership will go down to the wire, only being decided this weekend when the top two, Hearts and Celtic, meet each other in their final game of the season. The current leaders, Hearts, beat Falkirk 3-0 tonight, while Celtic needed an extra-time penalty to win 3-2 against Motherwell. Hearts will be champions for the first time since 1960 if they avoid defeat on Saturday. Alistair Bruce Ball watched their game at Tynecastle.
For a period of about 12 minutes in the first half, Hearts were on their way to winning the title on the night. Tynecastle erupted with joy at news of Motherwell taking the lead against Celtic. Hearts then scored 2 quick goals themselves, and it was all going their way. We should have known there were plenty more twists and turns to come, though, and sure enough, when Blair Spittle got Hearts' third goal late in the game, they were then in a position where Celtic would need to beat them by 3 goals on Saturday to wrest the title from their grasp. But news of Celtic's controversial late penalty then filtered through, and once again it's just 1 point between them ahead of their title decider at Celtic Park. If Hearts avoid defeat in that game, they'll win their first title in nearly 70 years, but Martin O'Neill's Celtic will now be favourites to steal in front at the very last.
The Hearts captain, Lawrence Shanklin, said Saturday's match will be a 90-minute cup final, but they would go into the game with confidence, a sentiment shared by some nervous fans.
Celtic should not have a penalty in the last minute of the game. I'm so disgusted. I'm a big Hearts fan and I'm ready to cry.
Of course it was going to come on at 10 to last game to sort of stay hopeful. This has been a horrible week leading up to this. Been really, really nervous. And it's just extended a few more days, I suppose.
Disappointing like, but I still fancy us going on Saturday. Take a draw. I think we'll do it on Saturday. Confident.
And in the Premier League, Manchester City have beaten Crystal Palace 3-0, a result that leaves them 2 points behind the leaders Arsenal, with 2 games to go. Cricket and England have recalled the Sussex bowler Ollie Robinson after an absence of 2 years for the team's first Test match since their drubbing in the Ashes series in Australia. 3 uncapped players have also been named in the squad for next month's game against New Zealand at Lord's. More details from our cricket correspondent, Stefan Schemmelt.
The new faces in the England squad are not unexpected. Durham's Emilio Gay and Somerset's James Rue come in and will vie for the batting spot vacated by the dropped Zach Crawley, while England have had their eye on Hampshire pace bowler Sonny Baker for some time. But it's the recall of Ollie Robinson that provides the most intrigue. Exiled from international cricket for more than 2 years, England have extended the olive branch in their hunt for a seamer to lead the attack. Jofra Archer will not be ready after his stint at the IPL. Spinners Shoaib Bashir and Rayan Ahmed are both in. England were dismal in Australia, the most disappointing Ashes tour for years. The management kept their jobs and will hope this group of players proves that decision was correct.
Now for a look at the morning papers, and the Daily Mail predicts a day of anarchy, saying that Wes Streeting will plunge Labour into civil war by resigning from government and mounting a leadership challenge. Street fighter is the headline in The Sun. Downing Streeting, says the front page of the Daily Star, with Sir Keir Starmer's allies telling the Financial Times they're sceptical the Health Secretary has the necessary backing. But one of his supporters insists that Wes is a very good politician. He doesn't rely on shonky data. According to The Guardian, Mr Streeting has prompted a frantic scramble on the left of Labour to find a candidate to oppose him. Sources tell the I paper that Andy Burnham has found a seat to fight, but it might not be winnable. One of his allies is quoted in the Daily Telegraph as saying he'll probably be squeezed out of the race. The paper says the left is likely to put forward Ed Miliband, with an insider telling The Times that another potential challenger, Angela Rayner, is well liked but a complete liability. The Daily Mirror leads with what it calls the sleaze probe into the £5 million gift to Nigel Farage. It says if the Reform UK leader ends up being barred from the Commons for more than 10 weeks, he could face a recall petition, meaning he would have to stand for re-election. Mr Farage says he was under no obligation to declare the payment. Villagers in rural Shropshire are being trained to fill in the potholes that plague local roads. Volunteer road wardens are expected to take to the streets of Churchpreen, Hewley and Kenley, south of Shrewsbury, in the coming weeks to help fix the problem. Our Midlands correspondent Phil Mackey has been finding out more about this unusual community effort.
It's become a familiar sound on the UK's pothole-filled roads. Cars and lorries that have failed to spot them or can't avoid them plunking into a rut, crack or crater. The Asphalt Industry Alliance estimates it would cost nearly £19 billion to fix them all. Insurance claims to cancels for damage to vehicles and tyres rose by 90% in the 3 years to 2024, according to the RAC. It's bad enough in the big cities, but in rural areas where repairs happen even less frequently, everyday life can be a misery. The pilot will be in 3 villages on the edge of the Shropshire Hills after it was first tried in Devon. Shropshire County Council thinks training volunteers who will be provided with equipment and materials could help. One of them is Steve Wild.
I think as much as fixing the roads, getting that community uplift and spirit and support to the local parish councillors, I think that's worth it all in itself.
The volunteers will only be allowed to fill small holes on quiet roads. The bigger jobs must be left to the county's highways department. However, those willing to don their high-vis jackets will also be asked to complete other much-needed tasks, including cleaning and repairing signs, maintaining verges and clearing blocked drains.
The headlines again. Supporters of the Health Secretary Wes Streeting say they expect him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership as soon as today. It's unclear if he secured the support of 81 MPs as required. The Prime Minister has warned that a leadership contest would plunge the party into chaos. The Parliamentary Standards Commissioner has opened an inquiry into whether the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage broke Commons rules by not declaring a £5 million gift. The United Arab Emirates says it denies reports that Benjamin Netanyahu recently visited the country after the Israeli Prime Minister's office said he had held a secret meeting with the UAE President. The family of a British couple jailed in Iran on espionage charges say they're gravely concerned for their safety after not hearing from them for more than a week. The Metropolitan Police is preparing for one of its biggest deployments in decades to prevent clashes between far-right and pro-Palestinian demonstrators in London on Saturday. BBC News.
With Chris Aldridge. Now, with a look at the weather, we have Darren Betts.
Hello there. An area of low pressure is sitting to the east of the UK. It's going to continue to feed in this colder air and more showers widely as we move into Thursday. Through the rest of the night, things are quietening down a little. The winds are dropping, the showers are becoming fewer, but there'll still be quite a few around. But where we have clearing skies and lighter winds across northern England and southern Scotland, temperatures could get close to freezing. More typically, we'll see lows of 4 or 5 degrees. And heading into Thursday morning, we'll start with the showers, mainly across northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and down near eastern coastal areas of England. Elsewhere may start dry with some sunshine, but we'll see the cloud increasing and showers are expected to develop widely, and again they could well be heavy with some hail and thunder. There will be some sunshine in between, of course. It's one of those sort of days as it was on Wednesday. In Northern Ireland, the showers may tend to move away during the afternoon, and in Scotland they may well become fewer as well here too. But there'll be gusty winds near those heavy showers. There's generally this cool north to northwesterly wind blowing, and so temperatures are well below the average for this time of the year, and like Wednesday we're going to be around 10 to 14 degrees. Moving into the end of the week, and Friday should actually see fewer showers, a bit more sunshine around as well, and a lot of places may well have a dry day. There'll be the odd shower for Northern Ireland, for northern and eastern Scotland, down the east coast of England. Bulk of the showers probably on Friday, South Wales, and more especially southern counties of England. The winds in the west not quite as strong on Friday. The strongest of the winds are actually going to be blowing across the eastern side of England and Scotland. It's still that north to northwesterly wind. We're still in the same air mass, so even though showers will become fewer, it's going to be around 10 to 14 degrees once again. It should become a little less chilly, though, over the weekend.
Thank you, Darren.
The Weirichs knew they were very fortunate to have a decent place to live. Weimar was fighting a never-ending battle to provide housing for the many bureaucrats and politicians that were moving to the new capital of Thuringia. Walter Gropius and his Bauhaus school saw this as an opportunity to try out some of their ideas of modern and affordable living. Why not design houses utilizing new methods of mass production? Weimar's conservative elites sensed the explosive potential of Bauhaus ideas. They staunchly opposed its radical assumption that it was time for the old to go. The Bauhaus teacher Fred Forbat came up with the idea of having one large square living room in the middle, surrounded by smaller functional spaces on three sides. This could then be extended as needed, like a large model kit. They planned to build an estate of such houses in Weimar, where the Bauhaus community would live. When they presented their plans to the Weimar authorities, they hit a wall of outrage. In 1920, they had already mooted the idea of putting up temporary dwellings on the Hollenberg, a hill on the eastern outskirts of Weimar, but vehement objections from nearby residents had scuppered their plans. No matter how much Weimar needed housing, it would not be built by Bauhaus students. But there was a silver lining. The communists and socialists in the Thuringian parliament were sympathetic to Gropius's vision and pushed through a sizable public loan under one condition. The Bauhaus needed to prove that it was worth funding. Gropius agreed. His school would hold an exhibition the following year, complete with a concept house built to full scale. The Haus am Horn would be built whether Weimar liked it or not. In the spring of 1923, Karl Weyrich purchased a bicycle for Marie for 2 million marks. Had he waited until September, the same amount would have bought him a loaf of bread. Karl was determined not to allow the desperate economic situation to crush his happiness with Marie. Sundays, when his shop was closed, were for them to go hiking and cycling. The Weirichs were fighting a seemingly never-ending battle to keep their shop afloat. Karl offered his customers typewriters for 250 million marks. Pay cash and take home today. He would later wonder how they even reported the shockingly long figures to the tax authorities. In January, the Allies had met in Paris to discuss Germany's defaults on the agreed reparation payments. The French had threatened to invade if the full amount wasn't forthcoming, and they meant it. On the 11th of January, over 70,000 French and Belgian troops invaded Germany and occupied its industrial Ruhr region. The occupation destroyed what little economic capability post-war Germany still had. The Reichstag responded 2 days later with a rare display of unity. The country couldn't fight back, but it would boycott France's attempt to take coal by force. In order for German workers to stay at home, the government had to step in to pay wages and compensation. And for this, they needed to print more money. This was enthusiastically greeted by the population, but it also proved to be the spark to the tinderbox of German economic trouble. The value of the mark was spiraling down at eye-watering speed. By June, a single dollar was worth 120,000 marks. By December, it would be 4.2 trillion marks. Unable to buy what they wanted, Karl and Marie used their bikes to go on hamster rides into the countryside, gathering windfall one could get for free rather than for a wheelbarrow of banknotes. In August, the Bauhaus School presented its first exhibition. Weimar was transformed with visitors from all over the world. This included the American architect Frank Lloyd Wright, the Russian composer Igor Stravinsky, the controversial Swiss-French architect Le Corbusier, and journalists from all over Europe. In all, around 15,000 people saw the exhibition. The family of 16-year-old Baldur von Schirach moved in Weimar's elite conservative circles. Baldur received private tuition from Adolf Bartels, a well-known writer whose book, A History of German Literature, had become a classic. Like all Bartels' writing, it was steeped in anti-Semitism. Baldur visited the Haus am Horn and immediately had reservations. It was one of those typical German things, he scoffed in an interview, an idealistic construct that couldn't withstand reality. Baldur was surrounded by those who intended to defend the town's reputation as the spiritual heart of traditional German culture. Councillor Emil Herfurth called it insufferable that Gropius had introduced such modern art to a town that's German in the best sense. Gropius called them a clique of well-established culture mummies. In the long run, the Bauhaus exhibition was a success. It laid the foundations for an architecture movement that would revolutionize the way we live. But Gropius had not won over his enemies in Weimar. On the 9th of November, Karl Weyrich celebrated his 38th birthday. It was a small party, since that day was a bit tumultuous, as the shopkeeper noted with wry understatement. The previous day, Reichswehr military units had been sent by the federal government in Berlin to occupy Weimar because of communist activities. The Communist International, a Moscow-sponsored organization, decided that German workers should try to launch an October revolution. This German October would be launched by Communist Party politicians in the state governments of Thuringia and Saxony, where they'd made large gains. Even the hint of revolutionary activity was a red rag to a federal regime acutely conscious of its own fragility. The Reichswehr marched into Weimar. Amidst the chaos in the streets surrounding Karl's shop, another attack on state authority was launched 400 kilometers to the south. In Munich, a far-right Austrian firebrand attempted his own revolution that day and failed. Around 2,000 Nazis went on a march through the Bavarian capital until they were confronted by soldiers and police. In their exchange of fire, 16 Nazis, 4 police officers and 1 bystander were killed. Nazi leader Adolf Hitler was arrested 2 days later. His attempt to seize power had failed, for now. By 1924, the government's economic reset had stopped the fiscal freefall, but many of Weimar's small businesses were ruined or close to it. Karl Weyrich had lost all savings and was forced to start rebuilding his shop's finances from scratch. But they had a roof over their heads. In February, Karl and Marie began to sell typewriters again, this time for their normal price. In politics, nothing was back to normal. The young Thuringian state needed a new parliament, and elections were scheduled for the 10th of February. The middle and upper classes were deeply frightened of a communist takeover of parliament. So conservative parties formed a coalition called Thüringer Ordnungsbund. The strategy worked. With a staggering turnout of nearly 90%, the Ordnungsbund got 35 to 72 seats, almost an outright majority. Almost. It was 2 seats short. So the Ordnungsbund turned to the 7 Völkisch MPs. These Völkisch MPs were part of a movement that began in the 19th century and defined communities and nations by ethnicity, rather than culture, language, or political boundaries. They regarded Jews as a foreign race. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party was built on Völkisch ideology. The Nazi Party wasn't on the ballot paper on the 10th of February 1924. Hitler's trial for the Munich Putsch began just over 2 weeks later, and his party was banned across Germany. But nobody could stop his followers from standing as independent candidates. In this way, 7 Völkisch men made it into the Thuringian parliament, 3 of them Nazi Party members. Without their say-so, the Ordnungsbund would not be able to pass any laws. This band of anti-Semitic extremists was led by Arthur Dinter, who knew exactly what he wanted, in exchange for enabling the Ordnungsbund to run a functioning government. He demanded that the new government consist only of non-Marxist men of German blood. In other words, he wanted all Jews removed from parties and positions of power. Not everyone in the broad coalition of the Ordnungsbund thought that caving to right-wing extremism was a legitimate price for staying in power. But the Ordnungsbund was keen to avoid new elections. While the Nazi Party remained illegal in the rest of Germany, Thuringia lifted the ban in March 1924, granting Hitler's party a political sanctuary from which to rebuild his movement. On the 20th of April, a strange birthday party took place at Hotel Hohenzollern. The man who turned 35 that day hadn't been able to make it in person. Adolf Hitler was in jail in Landsberg, convicted of high treason and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He would only serve 264 days under rather comfortable conditions that allowed him to receive visitors, write his book Mein Kampf, and change the strategy of his Nazi movement from violent revolution to strategic electioneering. For the time being, however, his well-wishers met without him at Rosa and Arthur Schmidt's hotel in Weimar. But none of the Nazis assembled at the Hotel Hohenzollern that day had any idea that they were in an establishment run by a Jewish woman and her husband. Rosa and Arthur led largely secular, explicitly German lives, and they couldn't afford to be picky about their guests. They served food and drinks, while their raucous guests hammered out the ideological foundation for the re-establishment of the Nazi Party. The change in the Thuringian government from left-wing to conservative with far-right support. The government halved the annual budget of the Bauhaus and told all staff that their contract would run out on the 1st of April 1925. It was time for Gropius to cut his losses. The Bauhaus had no future in Weimar. On the 26th of December, Gropius and his colleagues dissolved the Weimar Bauhaus themselves. They'd received an offer for relocation to Dessau. Students and staff had one more wild party before a Bauhaus master declared, "Gentlemen, we're done Weimaring. Now it's time to Dessau." Karl Weyrich spent Christmas 1924 unperturbed by the seismic historical shifts under the surface of German society. He and Marie exchanged presents in their flat before venturing out to stand on the market square with their neighbours and sing Christmas carols. They were blissfully unaware that the release from prison of one Adolf Hitler 4 days earlier would soon change their lives forever.
Weimar, Life on the Edge of Catastrophe was written by Katja Hoyer and read by Shan Thomas. It was abridged by Julian Wilkinson and produced by Lou Kemp, and it was a BBC Audio Scotland production for Radio 4. And now it's time for the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 0015 on Thursday the 14th of May. There are warnings of gales in Viking, North Utsira, South Utsira, Forties and Fair Isle. The general synopsis at 1800. Low southern Sweden 992 expected. Eastern South Utsira 986 by 1800 Thursday. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. Viking, North Utsira, northwesterly 4 or 5, veering northerly 6 to gale 8. Perhaps severe gale 9 later in Viking, decreasing 4 or 5 later in North Utsira. Showers, then rain, moderate or good. South Utsira, 40s. Northwesterly 4 or 5, increasing 6 to gale 8, becoming cyclonic 3 to 5 later in South Utsira. Rain or showers, moderate or good. Cromarty, 4th, time, dogger. North or northwest, 3 or 4, increasing 4 to 6, occasionally. Scale 8 later in Cromarty. Showers, perhaps thundery. Good, occasionally moderate. Fisher, northwest 4 to 6, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later. Perhaps gale 8 later. Showers, then rain later. Good, occasionally poor later. German Bight, Humber, Thames. Cyclonic becoming west or northwest 3 to 5. Occasionally 6 later except in Thames. Thundery showers. Good, occasionally moderate. Dover, White. Northwest 4 to 6. Becoming variable, mainly north 3 or 4 later. Thundery showers. Good, occasionally moderate. Portland, Plymouth, Biscay. North or northwest 4 to 6. Occasionally 7 at first. Showers, perhaps thundery in Portland. Good, occasionally moderate. Trafalgar, northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6. Occasionally 3 at first in south and 7 later in northeast. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. Fitzroy, Seoul, northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6. Occasionally 7 in east. Showers, moderate or good. Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea, north or northwest 4 to 6. Occasionally 7 in Lundy and Irish Sea. Showers, perhaps thundery. Good, occasionally moderate. Shannon, Rockall, north or northwest 4 to 6. Decreasing 2 to 4 later in Rockall. Rain or showers, moderate or good. Malin, Hebrides, north or northwest 5 or 6. Occasionally 7 at first and 4 later. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. Bailey, north or northwest 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4. Rain or showers, good, occasionally moderate. Fair Isle, northerly 5 to 7, occasionally 4 at first in east, and gale 8 later in east. Showers, moderate or good. Faroes, northerly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later in east. Showers, good. And southeast Iceland, northerly 4 in east, variable 2 to 4 in west. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. And now the weather reports from coastal stations for 2300. Tyree, automatic, north 6, recent rain, 9 miles, 1007, rising slowly. Stornoway, north, northwest 4, 11 miles, 1007, now falling. Lerwick, north, northwest 3, 32 miles, 1002, falling slowly. Wick, automatic, northwest by north 2, 9 miles, 1004, rising slowly. Aberdeen, northwest 3, 19 miles, 1003, now falling. Lukers, west by south 2, recent rain, 22 miles, 1003, now falling. Bulmer, northwest by north 3, 9 miles, 1002, rising slowly. Bridlington, north-northwest 3, 1000, rising slowly. Sandetti light vessel automatic, west-northwest 6, 11 miles, 1000. Greenwich light vessel automatic, west-northwest 5, 11 miles, 1002. St Catherine's Point, automatic. Northwest by west 3, 1003, now falling. Jersey, northwest by west 5, 8 miles, 1007, falling slowly. Channel Light Vessel, automatic. Northwest by west 6, 1006. Scilly, automatic. Northwest 6, 9 miles, 1010, falling slowly. Milford Haven, northwest 4, recent rain, 27 miles, 1007, rising slowly. Aberporth, north by west 5, heavy rain, 12 miles, 1006, rising slowly. Valley, north-northwest 4, 15 miles, 1005, rising slowly. Liverpool Crosby, north-northwest 4, recent rain, 12 miles, 1003, rising slowly. Valencia, north by west 4, recent drizzle, 8 miles, 1015, now falling. Ronald's Way, northwest 4, 11 miles, 1005, rising more slowly. And Malin Head, north-northwest 5, moderate showers, 3 miles, 1008, now falling. And now here's the weather forecast for the inshore waters of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, valid for the following 24 hours, issued by the Met Office at 2300 on Wednesday the 13th of May. The general situation: the United Kingdom will continue to lie in an unseasonably cool and showery north to northwesterly airflow during the next 24 hours. The wind will be strong and blustery at times, especially later in the day in the northeast. Cape Wrath to Ratteray Head, including Orkney, northerly or northwesterly 3 or 4, increasing 5 or 6, occasionally 7 in east, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Ratteray Head to Berwick upon Tweed, northwesterly 3 to 5, veering northerly 4 to 6, then backing northwesterly again later, and increasing 7 at times in north. Showers, perhaps thundery later, good, occasionally moderate. Berwick upon Tweed to Whitby, north or northwest 3 or 4, increasing 4 to 6, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Whitby to Gibraltar Point, north or northwest 4 or 5, occasionally 3 at first and 6 later, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Gibraltar Point to North Foreland, northerly or northwesterly 3 or 4, occasionally 5 at first and 2 later, showers, thundery at times, good, occasionally moderate. North Foreland to Selseybill, northwesterly 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4 for a time later, showers, thundery at times, good, occasionally moderate. Selseybill to Lyme Regis, north or northwest 4 or 5, occasionally 6 at first, then becoming variable 3 at times, showers, thundery at times, good, occasionally moderate. Lyme Regis to Land's End, including the Isles of Scilly, northerly or northwesterly 5 or 6, occasionally 4 in east, showers, perhaps thundery, good, occasionally moderate. Land's End to St David's Head, including the Bristol Channel, northerly or northwesterly 5 or 6, occasionally 4 in east, showers, perhaps thundery, good, occasionally moderate. St David's Head to Great Orme Head, including St George's Channel, north or northwest 5 or 6, decreasing 4 at times, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Great Orme Head to the Mull of Galloway, northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6, decreasing 2 to 4 later in east, showers, thundery at times, good, occasionally moderate. Isle of Man, northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later in west, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Lochfoyle to Carlingford Loch, northwesterly 5 or 6, occasionally 7 in North Channel, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Mull of Galloway to Mull of Kintyre, including the Firth of Clyde and North Channel, northerly or northwesterly 5 or 6, occasionally 7 in North Channel, decreasing 4 at times elsewhere, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Mull of Kintyre to Ardnamurchan Point. North or northwest 4 to 6. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. Ardnamurchan Point to Cape Wrath. North or northwest 4 to 6. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. And the Shetland Isles, northerly, mainly 5 to 7, but 4 at first in east and south, and increasing gale 8 at times later. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. And that completes the shipping bulletin. And that completes our day here on Radio 4. We'll be back at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I just want to remind you that we'll be marking Ascension Day with a live service from St Martin in the Fields, led by the Reverend Dr. Sam Wells, with music from St Martin's Voices and Becca Folks. A celebration for Ascension Day, that is 8 o'clock in the evening on Radio 4. So this is where we say goodnight. The World Service are ready to take over. So from me, Kelsey Bennett at Broadcasting House in London, I wish you a very quiet and peaceful night. Good night.